She experienced humiliation and was even detained directly within the VIP terminal of Rosebridge Airport. Dressed in an old hoodie and worn-out sneakers, she appeared strikingly ordinary amidst a waiting lounge filled with Italian suits and platinum-tier memberships. This type of passenger doesn't typically travel on a private jet, a security officer stated coldly. She was held under scrutinizing glances until the private jet of her billionaire husband arrived. Rosebridge Jet Terminal presented an image of immense wealth, with its polished marble floors reflecting the light of expensive chandeliers, and its tarmac accommodating Gulfstreams and Louis Vuitton suitcases. This exclusive airport, where Sapphire membership cards held greater significance than passports, resonated with the presence of tailored Armani suits, Louboutin heels, and the aroma of Tom Ford oud. The VIP lounge, designed as a lavish space of glass and velvet, catered exclusively to a select clientele, with staff in silk vests verifying access via platinum keycards. Past the lounge area, a private runway extended, its entrances secured for the wealthiest individuals. Claire Sutton entered the terminal, wearing a casual gray hoodie, faded sweatpants, and worn sneakers that made a soft sound on the marble flooring. At 30 years old, having grown up in a small, unassuming town, she had independently studied aerospace engineering while working as a mechanic, her life straightforward until she encountered Noah Sutton, the individual responsible for establishing Sutton Aerospace as a worldwide leader. A book and a water bottle were inside the small backpack she carried, her only belongings following a connecting domestic flight. The lounge's stairs seemed to divide her, as if sensing an approaching storm. Claire felt like an imperfection in the terminal's gleaming appearance, her backpack a disruption to the exclusive environment. A security officer, Victor Hayes, moved toward her, his Navy uniform immaculate, his badge shining. "This lounge is exclusively for private jet passengers," he stated, his voice drawing attention. A lounge attendant, wearing a $2,000 Gucci blazer, chuckled, bending towards their colleague. They likely gained entry searching for employment. Amusement spread through the lounge, passengers concealing smiles with perfectly shaped hands. Claire remained still, her hazel eyes fixed, her backpack over one shoulder. She had come to meet Noah, the man whose empire she'd secretly assisted in creating. A wave of frustration rippled through the onlookers, their emotions tightening at the dismissive behavior of these officials, their contempt a sharp contrast to Claire's gentle demeanor. The jeering grew louder, a harsh sound led by the terminal's influential members. Vanessa Klein, the lounge manager, stepped forward, her platinum blonde hair flowing over a form-fitting Versace dress, her red lipstick a vivid accent to her cool expression. At 29 years old, having grown up in Miami's affluent circles, she was known for maintaining strict standards of admittance. Claire's hoodie earned a scoff. "We're unable to verify your identity or your reason for being in the high-security zone," the officer stated, her voice crisp and firm. The passengers responded with laughter that reverberated against the glass walls. Vanessa, with a flick of her hair, released a cloud of Chanel perfume, a fragrance Claire knew Noah found unpleasant. Claire's fingers gripped her backpack, her expression composed, while the audience's anger escalated, their hearts racing at this direct challenge, Vanessa's confidence appearing sharp and cold. The criticism intensified, becoming a deliberate and unified attack on Claire's presence. Victor Hayes approached, his badge reflecting light, and indicated a side door. "Your baggage has not cleared VIP screening," he stated, his voice steady but not unkind. "Please proceed to the holding area for those suspected of making false statements." The crowd applauded, their Rolexes catching the light as they gestured for her to leave. A passenger wearing a $6,000 Brioni suit exclaimed, "You don't seem like someone who owns a private jet ticket." Amusement rippled through the group, with passengers bumping shoulders. A receptionist whispered, "She doesn't appear to be a tourist." Another commented, "That hoodie looks like it could be stolen, and she has the nerve to enter here?" The remarks felt like a heavy blow, each word a painful strike against Claire's quietness. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts aching for Claire, deeply upset by this group's persistent harshness. The travelers' disdain became sharp as Claire stood in the VIP lounge, their taunts a deliberate attack intended to undermine her resolve. Several technology leaders in $8,000 Seville Row suits assembled close to the velvet sofas, their words a spiteful blend. "She's a mark on Rosebridge's reputation," one remarked, gesturing with a platinum fountain pen in Claire's direction, highlighting her worn sneakers. Returning to the budget terminal, one individual brandished a black Amex card, exclaiming, "Her backpack appears to be from a flea market." The audience's laughter was loud, employees glancing at each other, their Rolexes reflecting the light. A private equity mogul declared, "She's an insult to every jet parked here." The jeers felt like a severe judgment, each word a sharp blow against Claire's composed demeanor. Noah's jet was visible on the tarmac beyond the glass, but the lounge's disapproval felt intensely heavy. The audience's anger escalated, their hearts racing, indignant at this planned injustice, their fury intense and ready to challenge the elite's pride. The staff's involvement aggravated the situation, their actions a new disappointment. A receptionist, Clara Holt, wearing a tailored blazer, approached, her voice laced with disdain. "Miss, the general terminal is that way," she stated, gesturing towards a concealed door, her smirk reflected by surrounding passengers. "We don't allow such guests in the VIP lounge," she added, which drew laughter from the group. Clara, 26 years old and raised in New Jersey, took pride in her role as a gatekeeper. The group's approval felt like a powerful current, their arrogance a very public rejection. Claire held her backpack, her hazel eyes unwavering, but the lounge's disapproval felt intensely heavy. The audience's anger surged, their hearts racing at this form of institutional rejection, their fury burning against Rosebridge's sanctity. Vanessa Klein's criticism became pointed, a deliberate attempt to embarrass Claire in front of the lounge's most distinguished members. "You're not just out of place, you're a source of embarrassment," she stated, her Versace dress catching the light as she indicated Claire's sweatpants. Sutton Aerospace would not permit such behavior, she insisted, within their facilities. Her companions laughed, the sound punctuated by the clicking of their Mont Blanc pens, their gazes shifting to Claire's backpack. Vanessa remarked, "She's a charity case, not a jet passenger," her voice carrying enough volume to hush the surrounding quiet sounds. The passengers responded with approval, their disapproval feeling overwhelming, their hushed tones filled with discontent. "She's a fake," they muttered. Claire's hazel eyes glowed with contained anger, but her smile remained steady, a defense against the feeling of being let down. The pavement shimmered outside the windows, but the lounge's disapproval felt like a heavy burden. The audience's anger surged, their feelings of sorrow for Claire evident, fueled by the manager's deception revealed. The passengers' resentment reached a high point, their voices a harsh and bitter wave. A technology executive in a $5,000 Canali suit leaned forward, his voice sharp and dismissive. "She's insignificant, likely here seeking a passage," he remarked, pointing at Claire's sweatpants. "Observe that backpack. Did she retrieve it from a refuse container?" His associates chuckled, displaying their platinum cards. A socialite declared, "She's an embarrassment to whoever let her in." Laughter echoed, each insult a dagger aimed at Claire's heart. A woman standing close by with her daughter murmured, "She's likely someone's housekeeper." Her daughter chuckled, adding, "Or a stowaway." The audience's anger surged, their hearts with Claire, their fury a tidal wave against this malicious slander, desperate for the truth to shatter the elite's lies. The lounge staff's disapproval became obvious, their behavior a public embarrassment intended to entertain the other passengers. A senior concierge, Richard Tate, addressed Claire close to the glass reception desk, his silk vest immaculate, his tone condescending. "Miss, this lounge is exclusively for verified jet passengers," he stated, ensuring the surrounding people could hear. He indicated her hoodie with a gesture, his smirk echoed by the nearby employees. "Rosebridge rarely permits such straightforwardness," he stated, which elicited laughter from those present. The group's acceptance felt overwhelming, their confidence a stark display. Claire held her backpack, her hazel eyes steady, but the lounge's disapproval felt oppressive. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived injustice, their fury burning against the terminal's integrity. Claire remained silent, her eyes dry, her arms holding her backpack, a plain bag containing the book she's read on her flight, a gift for Noah. She was led to the isolation room, a cold space of glass and steel, its walls mirroring the lounge luxury. The door closed behind her, with Victor Hayes standing watch, his badge representing her confinement. The passengers' murmurs followed her. There lies a suffocating tide. She's a con artist. Claire's hazel eyes remained steady, her composure a quiet blaze. The audience's rage peaked, their hearts breaking for Claire, their fury a fire ready to consume the terminal's sanctity. The passengers' cruelty peaked as they spread vicious rumors, their voices a venomous storm echoing through the lounge. A hedge fund manager in a $9,000 Loro Piana suit leaned forward, his voice loud and cutting. He suggested she was a fraud, possibly having secured her place in the lounge through bribery, his friends agreeing, their cufflinks gleaming. Her marriage was also fabricated, simply a narrative to deceive Sutton. Another declared, raising his voice, "She's a con artist. Noah has been tricked." Derisive laughter erupted, each statement a painful blow to Claire. Employees shared falsehoods, their accusations multiplying rapidly. "She's after his wealth." Claire touched her backpack, maintaining a calm expression, though the group's malicious gossip felt overwhelming. The audience's anger surged, their feelings aligned with Claire, their outrage a powerful force seeking to expose the falsehoods of those in power. The sound of a jet engine broke the lounge's quiet atmosphere as a black Gulfstream G800 landed on the private runway, one of fewer than 20 such runways globally. The aircraft's polished exterior shone, its engines creating a loud noise that stopped the surrounding conversation. A VIP golf cart quickly moved towards the isolation zone, its tires squealing on the tarmac. Noah Sutton disembarked, his white shirt rolled up, his dark sunglasses glinting, projecting an aura of intensity. At 35, having grown up in Seattle, he had transformed Sutton Aerospace into a global empire, incorporating Rosebridge Jet Terminal through a corporate restructuring. He took off his sunglasses, revealing gray eyes as sharp as steel, and proceeded into the isolation room. "Why is my wife being held here?" His voice held no volume, yet it resonated with force. A wave of emotion rippled through the onlookers, their frustration giving way to expectation. Noah's revelation a beacon in the tension. Victor Hayes faltered, his official identification providing no protection. "I wasn't aware she—" Noah interrupted, his expression unwavering. "She has nothing to demonstrate. I am her confirmation of travel." The atmosphere became still, Vanessa Klein's Versace dress appearing deflated, her crimson lipstick a sharp contrast against her complexion. Noah opened the exit, approached Claire, and clasped her hand. "Are you weary?" he inquired, his voice gentle yet resolute. "The aircraft was prepared. Let's proceed." Claire smiled, her hazel eyes radiating warmth, her hoodie a subtle adornment. The travelers' cufflinks appeared less brilliant, their expressions strained with surprise. The crowd's sense of accomplishment grew, their hearts pounding as Noah's words altered the lounge's influence. Noah addressed the airport manager, his voice composed but firm. "I intended to maintain my stake in Rosebridge for an additional 2 years," he stated, "but today I have revised that decision." He hesitated, his gray eyes surveying the lounge. Detaining anyone for not wearing a suit in a gathering of those who believed themselves divine seemed inappropriate. Vanessa Klein recoiled, her Chanel perfume a sharp contrast to the situation. Noah's expression turned intense. "I'm not merely the largest investor in this airport, I possess 70% ownership of Rosebridge Jet Terminal." A chill permeated the lounge. The receptionist almost dropped her iPad, and the head of security paled. The audience erupted, their anger shifting to astonishment as Noah's actions began to dismantle the deception that had restricted Claire. The repercussions were swift, a judgment conveyed without a sound. Noah addressed Victor Hayes, his voice sharp and decisive. "You held the one I travel with," he stated. "Your time here is over, 5 minutes remaining." Victor's uniform seemed to shrink, his professional life collapsing. Noah then confronted Vanessa Klein, his gaze unwavering. "Your department's screening procedures? Discontinued. Access is permanently denied to all Sutton Group locations." Vanessa's Versace dress offered no protection. Her standing served as a warning. Noah addressed Clara Holt, the receptionist. "Your keycards have been disabled. Please clear your workspace. Clara appeared stunned, her role as gatekeeper now exposed. The onlooker's sense of disappointment shifted to jubilation, Claire's success affirmed by her husband's considerable influence. The isolation room felt dominated by Noah Sutton, his voice sharp and decisive, silencing the space enclosed by glass walls. You dared to detain Claire Sutton, the only soul worthy of this terminal, he declared, his gray eyes radiating a controlled fury. The validity of your badges, your protocols were irrelevant in the face of her truth. He presented a sleek tablet displaying a series of canceled agreements. Victor Hayes' security contracts, Vanessa Klein's management deals, and the staff's lounge privileges, all rescinded by Sutton Aerospace's board. Your names are removed from global aviation, he announced, his eyes focused on Victor. You have lost more than jobs, you have lost your futures. The audience reacted with shocked gasps, their empires collapsing under his direction. Claire stood beside him, her gray hoodie glowing, her triumph confirmed by Noah's consistent strength. The audience cheered, their spirits lifted as his worldwide justice defeated the elite's pride. Noah's gaze turned to the woman who had spoken, her daughter standing close behind. I heard you refer to her as a maid, he said, his voice slightly firm. I'll demonstrate the power even a so-called maid can possess, sufficient to result in your permanent membership cancellation. He retrieved his phone, activated it with a single button, and issued the command. The memberships of all individuals in Lounge 1A from the previous 2 hours were to be terminated. No justification was required. The socialite's platinum card became invalid, her standing negated. The tech mogul, who had previously ridiculed Claire's backpack, was led away, his agreements rescinded. Those passengers who had laughed concealed their Rolexes, their power diminished. The observers felt their hearts pound, their anger evolving into pride, Claire's victory shining brightly and humbling the lounge's prominent members. The downfall of the elite was a spectacle, their arrogance shattered under Noah's command. Vanessa Klein stumbled back, her Versace dress a mockery, her reputation a cautionary tale among the staff. Victor Hayes' badge was confiscated, his decades of service null, his escorts pushing him toward the service exit. Clara Holt's gatekeeping empire plummeted, her scorn a public wound, her belongings scattered. The hedge fund manager's deals collapsed, his slander exposed his lies. Those who'd flicked pens concealed their cufflinks, their memberships revoked. The staff who'd sneered were dismissed, their careers terminated. The socialite who'd whispered faced ostracism, her reputation diminished. Claire stood tall, her sneakers a subtle symbol of triumph, her hazel eyes unwavering. The audience's hearts resonated with emotion, their anger shifting to admiration. Claire's victory and Noah's anger shook the world's wealthiest in the terminal's esteemed halls. The terminal's hierarchy collapsed under Noah's direction. A thorough review revealed its deep-seated flaws. He addressed the airport's operations chief, his tone sharp and direct amidst the lounge's lavish surroundings. Your screening system is unacceptable, he stated, his gray eyes unwavering. Every procedure that caused distress to my wife is nullified, effective immediately. He activated his phone, and a wave of alerts flooded the staff's devices. Contracts terminated, permissions removed, entire departments dissolved. The socialite's daughter wept, her mother's membership a relic of a fallen empire. The tech mogul's jet remained on the tarmac, his influence non-existent. The receptionist who had laughed was escorted out, her iPad now inactive. Claire stood beside Noah, her backpack a silent declaration of her truth, her victory a bright spot in the terminal's fading light. The audience's hearts lifted, their anger shifting to triumph. Noah's fury a powerful force that washed away Rosebridge's arrogance. The details of Claire's history remained unknown, whether to the staff, Vanessa, or the passengers. When she was 20, she had rebuilt aircraft engines while studying late into the night, using her earnings to pay for textbooks. At 25, she encountered Noah at an aerospace expo, her understated intelligence captivating him amidst a crowd of showy personalities. Their marriage, a private ceremony on a Maine cliff, was founded on love, not financial resources. Vanessa's perfume, the staff's keycards, the passengers' suits, held no comparison to the resilience embodied by the backpack Claire carried. She now stood within the terminal, her rubber band a reminder of her integrity, her silence a consuming fire that exposed their deceit. Claire entered the Gulf Stream, still wearing her hoodie, holding Noah's hand. Her reflection appeared on the terminal's glass wall, portraying a composed woman passing 2 rows of people with lowered heads. The aircraft moved ahead, its engines creating a visible display of strength, leaving the lounge hushed. The chandeliers decreased in brightness, the marble floors no longer echoing with dominance. Noah turned to Claire, his gray eyes filled with concern. "Are you all right?" She responded with a nod, her hazel eyes following the curve of his smile. As the jet ascended, the autumn light diminished, revealing a line of the world's wealthiest individuals seeking her approval, their gestures a quiet acknowledgement of their previous treatment of her. She had experienced deep shame even being held. Within the exclusive VIP terminal of Rosebridge Airport, she appeared unassuming in an old hoodie and worn sneakers. Her appearance stood in stark contrast to the surroundings, a waiting lounge filled with Italian suits and platinum-tier memberships. The revelation arrived with undeniable force, and it couldn't be ignored. Everyone involved understood a crucial lesson. True authority isn't defined by appearance, it's established by presence, and the impact will be immediate. If you enjoyed this narrative, please like, share, and subscribe for similar stories. We'd love to hear from you. If you were Claire, what actions would you take? They requested she tackle a complex math problem, not for the solution itself, but to observe her discomfort, hesitation, and silence. Within a seminar room populated by tailored suits and PhD name tags, she arrived wearing worn canvas shoes and a creased shirt. "Did you take a wrong turn, ma'am?" Someone chuckled, "This isn't the PDA meeting." However, as her hand grasped the marker and countless eyes anticipated her failure, the whiteboard began to reveal something entirely different. The Ascension Forum at St. Lennox University stood as a cathedral of intellect, its ancient brick walls draped in ivy, its seminar halls aglow with chandeliers worth more than Manhattan penthouses. This exclusive conference, reserved for Ivy League PhDs and million-dollar AI research sponsors, featured tailored wool suits, silk ties, and name tags boasting titles like Chair of Quantum Computing. Polished oak tables held crystal water pitchers, and the air carried notes of oud and ambition. A limited number, just 300 attendees, received invitations, and their sapphire badges were verified by staff wearing velvet vests. Outside the main hall, a marble atrium provided access to a private lecture theater, with its doors designated solely for keynote speakers. Lillian Moore Bellamy entered through a less conspicuous entrance. Her jeans were worn, her simple t-shirt was tucked into a cardigan featuring worn cuffs, and her chestnut hair was pulled back with a rubber band. At 31, raised in a modest town in Vermont, she had taught herself advanced mathematics while caring for her ailing mother, and had turned down PhD offers from Harvard, MIT, and Princeton. She held a thick notebook filled with handwritten formulas. It was her only companion besides her husband, Dr. Henry Bellamy, the forum's keynote speaker. The hall's stairs felt oppressive, their whispers a gathering storm. Lillian seemed out of place within the forum, her notebook a stark contrast to the elite's carefully constructed environment. A Yale professor, wearing a $4,000 Zegna suit and displaying a sapphire badge, halted his discussion. He questioned aloud, loud enough for others to hear, if she was his bag holder. A Stanford researcher, dressed in a $3,000 Armani blazer, laughed softly, nodding to his colleague, suggesting she might be his new girlfriend, someone who hadn't attended college. A wave of laughter echoed through the seminar room, with attendees attempting to hide smiles behind their hands. Lillian remained composed, her hazel eyes focused, a notebook held close. She had come to offer encouragement to Henry, whose work she had subtly influenced. The audience's frustration grew, feeling the sharp sting of these academic authorities' dismissive behavior and their contempt for Lillian's calm demeanor. The ridicule intensified, a harsh and pointed performance led by the forum's prominent members. Becca Sloan, a third-year PhD candidate from St. Lennox, moved forward, her tailored Chanel skirt swaying, her blonde ponytail as crisp as her expression. At 26, having grown up in Boston's elite circles, she was known for her dismissive attitude towards competitors. She looked at Lillian's worn cardigan and showed disapproval. "Ma'am, this area is designated for main speakers only. Free coffee is available downstairs," she stated, her voice precise. The attendees reacted with laughter, the sound reverberating through the oak walls. Becca swung her ponytail, releasing a wave of jasmine-scented perfume, a fragrance Lillian was aware Henry found unpleasant. Lillian's grip on her notebook intensified, her expression composed, yet the audience's anger escalated, their pulses racing at this direct challenge, Becca's confidence appearing like a flame in the cold air. The disapproval intensified, a planned and focused criticism of Lillian's participation. A conference staff member, Margaret Voss, moved forward, her tailored vest neat, her face showing years of upholding established rules. At 50, raised in upstate New York, she took pride in maintaining order. She indicated the exit, her voice steady but not unkind. "Let's go, miss. You're disrupting the session." The crowd responded with cheers, their silk ties gleaming as they gestured toward the atrium. A Princeton alum, dressed in a $5,000 Brioni suit, called out, "Did you get lost? This isn't the community college." Laughter erupted, academics subtly bumping shoulders. A postdoc whispered, "She doesn't even look like a grad student." Someone added, "That notebook's probably just doodles and she dares sit here?" The insults felt like a guillotine, each word a blow against Lillian's silence. The audience's anger grew, their hearts aching for Lillian, and their frustration directed at this group's harsh treatment. The academics' disapproval became sharp as Lillian stood in the seminar room, their derision a deliberate attack intended to diminish her resolve. Near the oak tables, a group of Ivy League professors, dressed in $7,000 Savile Row suits, assembled, their voices forming a harsh blend. "She's a detriment to this forum's reputation," one remarked, gesturing with a gold fountain pen towards Lillian's worn cardigan. "Return to the library, dear," another suggested, displaying a sapphire badge and adding, "Her notebook appears as if purchased at a secondary school sale." Amusement rippled through the gathering, with staff members subtly acknowledging each other, their cufflinks sparkling. A quantum computing expert exclaimed, "She's an insult to every paper presented here." The remarks felt like a guillotine, each word a blade against Lillian's poised silence. Henry's lecture theater loomed beyond the hall, but the seminar room's disdain was a crushing weight. The audience's frustration grew, their hearts pounding, angered by this orchestrated cruelty, their ire ignited, ready to challenge the elite's arrogance. Becca Sloan delivered another sharp comment, deliberately intended to unsettle Lillian in front of the select group. "So, what understanding do you expect to gain at a forum like this?" she asked, her Chanel skirt reflecting the light as she stood at Lillian's table. "Or should we administer a freshman entrance exam to familiarize you with the subject?" She didn't pause for a response, instead heading to the whiteboard where she began writing a complex combinatorics problem, one that had previously challenged her own research group. "If I solve this before the coffee break ends, I'll publicly apologize and get your coffee for a week," she stated, her voice loud enough to silence nearby murmurs. "If not, kindly step aside and make room for real academics." The attendees cheered, their scorn a suffocating tide, their whispers buzzing, "She's a fraud." Lillian's hazel eyes burned with quiet fire, but her smile held a shield against the challenge. The audience's anger surged, their hearts aching for Lillian, outraged by this public humiliation displayed before them. The elite's contempt became intensely personal, their voices a sharp and bitter chorus. A Harvard professor, dressed in a $6,000 khitan suit, rested against the seminar table, his voice harsh and dismissive. "She's insignificant, likely here to collect Bellamy's notes," he remarked, indicating Lillian's notebook. "Notice that cardigan. Did she make it herself?" His colleagues chuckled, their sapphire badges glinting. An MIT postdoc exclaimed, "She's an embarrassment to whoever let her in." The crowd's laughter felt overwhelming, their arrogance felt like a public condemnation. Lillian tightened her rubber band, her hazel eyes steady, but the seminar room's disapproval felt like a heavy burden. The audience's frustration intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived institutional failing, their anger threatening to disrupt the forum's decorum. Becca Sloan's disapproval intensified, her words a deliberate attempt to embarrass Lillian before the seminar room's distinguished attendees. "She's not just out of place. She's a disgrace," she stated, her Chanel skirt catching the light as she indicated Lillian's canvas shoes. "Henry must be horrified to see this. Nobody in his session." Her group responded with laughter, their silk scarves waving, their eyes briefly looking at Lillian's notebook. "She's a charity case, not a scholar," Becca remarked, her voice strong enough to stop nearby whispers. The attendees responded with cheers, their scorn a heavy atmosphere, their comments a constant hum. "She's a fake." Lillian's hazel eyes held a quiet intensity, but her smile remained, a defense against the disloyalty. The lecture theater shone in the distance, yet the seminar room's disapproval felt overwhelming. The audience's anger surged, their feelings sympathetic toward Lillian. The room was filled with anger as this PhD candidate's actions were revealed. The staff's involvement only intensified the disappointment, appearing as a further breach of trust. A session coordinator, Clara Holt, wearing a tailored blazer, addressed the situation, her tone laced with disdain. "Miss, general seating is located in the atrium," she stated, gesturing towards a side door, her slight smile echoed by nearby academics. "We do not allow guests of this nature in the main hall," she continued, prompting laughter from the assembled group. At 28, having grown up in Connecticut, Clara valued her role in controlling access. The crowd's endorsement felt like an overwhelming force, their condescension a very public shaming. Lillian held her notebook, her hazel eyes focused, but the seminar room's disapproval felt oppressive. The audience's anger rose, their hearts racing at this form of institutional rejection, their resentment burning against St. Lennox's reputation. The seminar room staff's disapproval became obvious, their actions a public embarrassment seemingly intended for the academics' entertainment. A senior usher, Richard Tate, confronted Lillian close to the oak tables. His velvet vest was immaculate, and his voice conveyed condescension. "Miss, this hall is reserved for registered attendees only," he stated, ensuring the surrounding audience could hear. He indicated her jeans with a gesture, and a smirk echoed across nearby staff. "The Ascension Forum doesn't usually permit such simplicity," he noted, which prompted laughter from the academics and coordinators. The audience's affirmation felt overwhelming, their perceived superiority a stark display. Lillian held her notebook, her hazel eyes steady, but the seminar room's disapproval felt heavy. The audience's anger surged, their hearts racing at this perceived institutional slight, their indignation intense against the forum's principles. The intensity of the criticism escalated, their words a sharp and bitter barrage. A Cornell researcher, dressed in a $4,000 Canali suit, leaned forward, his voice raised and critical. "She's a fraud, likely attempting to spy on Bellamy's work," he said, his colleagues agreeing with nods, their cufflinks gleaming. "Her notebook is a mere prop, a deceptive tactic to appear inconspicuous," another added, raising his voice. "She's a deceiver, and the forum has been misled." Derisive laughter echoed, each accusation a painful blow aimed at Lillian. Rumors circulated, with accusations spreading quickly. It was said she was trying to take his research. Lillian subtly twisted a rubber band, maintaining her composure, but the public's defamation felt heavy. The audience's frustration boiled over, many sympathizing with Lillian, their anger a powerful force against these false accusations, eager for the truth to expose the elite's deceit. Lillian remained silent, her eyes dry, her arms holding the notebook, the record of her life's work, a collection of formulas that had influenced Henry's career. She moved to the whiteboard, her canvas shoes quiet on the oak floor, and took the marker. The room was still, many eyes watching to see if she would hesitate. Her lines were steady, purposeful, without tremor, no deletions, and no adjustments. Within 3 minutes, the board displayed a complex solution, a level 2 supersymmetric permutation model rendered in graceful lines. She placed the marker and returned to her seat, her hazel eyes unwavering. Becca scoffed. "That's it? Are you certain you didn't make a mistake?" The audience's emotions shifted, their frustration turning to excitement, Lillian's calm resolve a focal point. An experienced professor, Dr. Arthur Wren, stood up from the front row, his tweed jacket showing signs of age but retaining its dignified appearance. At 70, a legend in combinatorics, he moved slowly toward the board, his glasses glinting, his expression changing from composed to stunned. This is the shortest known solution to this problem, he said, his voice trembling. She employed a supersymmetric model, something the advisory board hasn't even fully proven yet. The room fell silent, crystal pictures wavering, gasps spreading through the perfumed air. Attendees rose, gathering around the board, their sapphire badges glinting. Who is she? Questions arose about her identity. What was her origin? Becca's Chanel skirt appeared to fade, her ponytail offering no defense against the reality. The audience's sense of accomplishment grew, their hearts pounding as Lillian's skill altered the seminar room's power dynamic. The atmosphere changed as the keynote session commenced, with the crowd assembling in the lecture theater. Henry Bellamy approached the stage, his gray suit well-made but not ostentatious, his arrival impactful. At 40, raised in Chicago, he had received the Fields Medal for his work on algorithmic symmetry, much of it built on Lillian's unseen contributions. He adjusted the microphone, his gray eyes meeting Lillian's in the front row. "I'd like to relinquish my speaking time to someone far more deserving," he said, his voice steady. "This is Lillian Moore Bellamy, who turned down 3 PhD offers from Harvard, MIT, and Princeton to care for her ailing mother. The individual who authored 80% of the core algorithms in my research, and the only person in this room who genuinely understands the genesis of this problem." The audience's spirits lifted, their anger shifting to admiration, as Henry's explanation clarified the deception that had restricted Lillian. The room fell silent. Becca Sloan's coffee cup slipped from her grasp, breaking on the oak floor. Henry spoke, his voice sharp in the quiet, stating, "She doesn't require formal recognition. She doesn't need awards. She possesses brilliance, a quality none of us present can assert." The attendees' cufflinks appeared to lose their luster, their expressions strained with surprise. Clara Holt remained still, her role as gatekeeper a clear admission of defeat. Henry indicated Lillian, his hand unwavering. "This forum extended an invitation to me, but it is her contributions that warrant your appreciation." The audience cheered, their fury transformed into pride as Lillian's truth began to reshape the forum's legacy. Dr. Wren nodded, his glasses glinting with respect, the room holding its breath awaiting her response. Lillian rose, her frayed cardigan a quiet crown, and took the microphone. "I didn't come to prove anything," she said, her voice soft but clear. "I came to support my husband." She paused, her hazel eyes sweeping the room, adding, "But since you asked for a solution, I have offered one." The auditorium burst into applause, the attendees rising to their feet in a wave of admiration. Becca Sloan lowered her head, her Chanel skirt offering no comfort, and quietly apologized to Mrs. Moore Bellamy. Representatives from MIT, Stanford, and Caltech moved forward, their collaborative offers presented with unsteady hands. Lillian smiled, clasped Henry's hand, and remarked, "I just came to take you home for lunch." The audience responded with a powerful cheer, witnessing her poise dismantle the elite's presumptions. The consequences were swift, a judgment communicated without words. Becca Sloan was called before the advisory board, her research funding withdrawn, and her reputation served as a warning to those present. Clara Holt was moved to administrative roles, ending her career of controlling access. The Harvard professor who had ridiculed Lillian's cardigan was barred from participating in further discussions, effectively removing his impact. The Cornell researcher's grant proposals were denied, and his defamatory statements were revealed as falsehoods. Those who had previously shown scorn were addressed with consequences, and their positions lessened. Individuals who disseminated rumors concealed their credentials, their influence negated. Lillian stood next to Henry, her canvas shoes grounded, her notebook demonstrating her integrity. The audience's emotions resonated powerfully, their frustration changing to jubilation, Lillian's success shining brightly and diminishing the standing of the forum's leaders within St. Lennox's esteemed buildings. Henry Bellamy dominated the lecture theater, his voice cutting through the chandelier-lit air like a gavel. "You dared to question Lillian Moore Bellamy," he stated, his gray eyes radiating controlled fury, the architect of this forum's most significant insights. He raised a tablet displaying a list of consequences. Becca Sloan's research grants, Clara Holt's conference privileges, and academic advisory roles, all revoked by St. Lennox addressed the board. "Your names are erased from academic circles," he stated, his gaze fixed on Becca. "You've lost more than prestige, you've lost your futures." The crowd's gasps echoed as a wave of shock. With their empires collapsing under his direction, Lillian stood alongside him, her worn cardigan appearing bright, her victory assured by Henry's immense power. The elite's failure was a striking display, their overconfidence destroyed under Henry's direction. Becca Sloan retreated, her Chanel skirt seeming inappropriate, her standing a lesson to those present. Clara Holt's power crumbled, her disapproval a matter of public record, her attendance guiding her towards the atrium exit. The Columbia professor's funding disappeared, his defamation revealing his falsehoods. The professors who'd idly written with pens concealed their cufflinks, their positions as advisors terminated. The staff who'd previously expressed disdain were let go, their professional paths concluded. Those who had circulated rumors faced rejection, their power fading. Lillian remained composed, her canvas shoes a subtle sign of strength, her hazel eyes resolute. The audience's emotions surged, their anger shifting to admiration, Lillian's triumph and Henry's fury dominating the forum's esteemed chambers. A wave of applause filled the hall as his widespread condemnation diminished the arrogance of the world's leading figures. Lillian's history remained a mystery, unknown to the attendees, not Becca, and not the staff. At 20, she tackled differential equations while caring for her mother, her diner earnings paying for textbooks. At 25, she encountered Henry at a math symposium, her understated intelligence captivating him amidst a gathering of prominent figures. Their marriage, a secluded promise in a Vermont meadow, was founded on affection and mutual mathematical understanding. Becca's challenge, the staff's badges, the academic's attire, none compared to the significance of the notebook Lillian possessed. She now stood in the lecture theater, her rubber band a testament to her truth, her silence a furnace that burned through their lies. The forum resumed, but the attendees' eyes remained on Lillian. A Caltech dean approached, his voice low with respect. "Mrs. Moore-Bellamy, your work is extraordinary," he said, referencing his earlier scorn or regret. The academics retreated, their influence null, their aides scrambling to salvage ties with St. Lennox. The sponsors lingered, their influence wavering in Lillian's presence. She proceeded toward the atrium, her hazel eyes following Henry's pleased smile. The chandeliers softened, the autumn light lessening, leaving a procession of the world's most powerful individuals hoping for her attention, their gestures a quiet acknowledgement of the woman they had previously belittled. She was presented with a complex mathematical problem, not because a solution was required, but because they desired to observe her hesitate, falter, and become speechless. The seminar room was full of people in tailored suits and PhD name tags. She arrived wearing faded canvas shoes and a wrinkled shirt. However, when she held the marker and hundreds of eyes anticipated a misstep, the whiteboard revealed something unexpected. True brilliance doesn't require fanfare. It simply needs to be expressed. And the room responded with admiration. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this and tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were Lillian? A wave of humiliation washed over her within her own home. What should have been a joyous occasion, her grandfather's birthday party, a place intended for warm family connection, became a setting for mockery. "That's your gift?" Her adoptive sister scoffed, displaying a shimmering velvet box. The maids murmured amongst themselves. Her mother averted her gaze. Her father released a weary sigh. Then her billionaire boyfriend made his entrance. Blue Manor stood prominently over New York's Hudson Valley, its limestone walls illuminated by the October dusk, and its grand ballroom resembling a cathedral of wealth. The estate resonated with an air of influence during Franklin Bloom's 85th birthday celebration. Senators were present in bespoke tuxedos, media moguls were adorned in $20,000 gowns, CEOs possessed private islands, and dynasties were represented whose names adorned museums. The Bloom family, an elite group with a logistics empire spanning continents, entertained 200 guests, with their sapphire invitations verified by velvet-gloved staff. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbows across mahogany floors, caviar gleamed on silver trays, and a string quartet wove Vivaldi's notes through the air, rich with ambition and oud. The ballroom, framed by silk drapes and portraits of Bloom ancestors, served as a stage for legacy, each guest seeking Franklin's approval, his endorsement valued at billions. Outside, the autumn wind whispered through ancient oaks, but inside, a young woman's quiet strength was poised to alter the manor's history. Harper Bloom entered through a side entrance, her linen dress, hand-stitched by a Nebraska seamstress, flowing softly, her old ballet flat silent on polished marble. At 27, she possessed a striking beauty, her hazel eyes sharp as jade, her chestnut hair loosely tied with a cotton ribbon. Growing up in a small town, she held a part-time job at a diner, pursued studies in biology, and maintained a simple lifestyle, remaining unaware of her heritage until a confidential DNA examination at age 18 confirmed she was Franklin Bloom's biological granddaughter, a consequence of a 1997 hospital mix-up. The Blooms privately welcomed her back, but refrained from a public announcement, influenced by Celia, who had been raised as their daughter in place of Harper. Celia had betrayed the family, contaminating Harper's beverages with lemon-scented soap, inserting counterfeit Gucci in her closet, taking her boyfriend, all while presenting herself as the favored child. Harper did not retaliate. She approached Franklin, the only one who addressed her as my girl, his gray eyes radiating affection. Within her grasp, a velvet pouch contained a jade bracelet, purchased with all the money she had saved, a treasured gift for him. The assembled guests' gazes pierced Harper as she entered the ballroom, their murmurs keen as thorns. Celia Bloom, looking stunning in a Dior gown valued at $12,000, was positioned at the center, her jade bracelet, costing $90,000, displayed in a custom velvet box. She noticed Harper, whose expression held a hint of derision. "Oh wow, a bracelet. Quite a coincidence," she remarked, her voice easily audible throughout the room. "I'm giving Grandpa one as well, but, well, mine is somewhat more exceptional." The audience laughed, their gazes briefly shifting to Harper's simpler dress. Margaret Voss, a media heiress wearing a Chanel gown costing $25,000, moved closer to a senator. Did she actually bring inexpensive jewelry to an event like this? She questioned, eliciting amused sounds. Harper's fingers closed more firmly around the velvet pouch, her expression calm, yet the atmosphere was charged with disapproval. Helen's eyes briefly met hers, a momentary kindness, and the onlookers' frustration grew, their emotions tightening at the upper class's harshness. Celia displayed her bracelet initially, raising it so its diamonds glittered beneath the chandeliers. "This is for you, Grandpa, from your loving granddaughter," she stated, her voice smooth. Applause filled the room, with CEOs acknowledging and socialites lifting glasses. Attention then shifted to Harper, who stood apart, holding a small velvet pouch. A hedge fund titan shouted, trying to copy Celia? "That's just sad." The room erupted in laughter, guests glancing at each other, their diamonds sparkling. A senator's wife remarked, "That's what happens when you let some farm girl feign belonging." Harper's parents, Edward and Lillian Bloom, remained still, their expressions unreadable. Lillian remarked to a guest, indicating Harper's adopted status, with a dismissive tone, "She's not used to large parties." The audience's fury rose, their hearts pounding, angered by this family's perceived betrayal. The elite's scorn intensified as Harper moved through the ballroom, their mockery a deliberate attack intended to wound her spirit. A group of Wall Street heirs in $10,000 tuxedos positioned themselves along the velvet-draped wall, their voices forming a venomous chorus. "She was a mark against Bloom's reputation," one remarked, brushing a caviar crumb towards Harper's ballet flats. "Back to the cornfields, darling," another exclaimed, displaying a gold-plated cigar case. "Her dress looks like a tablecloth." The crowd's laughter echoed, guests glancing at each other, their diamonds sparkling. A shipping magnate declared, "She's an insult to every legacy here." The criticisms felt like a guillotine, each word a sharp blow against Harper's composed stillness. Franklin's grip on his cane tightened, though no one noticed, as the audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing, feeling immense fury at this planned display of cruelty. their resentment burning, prepared to overwhelm the elite's pride. The derision escalated, a synchronized attack on Harper's appearance. A group of socialites and $15,000 gowns arranged themselves in a semicircle, their voices a poisonous blend. "Did she get that dress at a thrift store?" one whispered, throwing a silk napkin towards Harper's feet. Isolated and vulnerable, a woman endured jeers, her jeweled clutch waving. A maid, encouraged by the onlookers, openly laughed. She hadn't brought a companion, likely due to financial constraints, her voice carrying throughout the room. The laughter felt like a devastating blow, each comment intensifying Harper's quietness. Edward Bloom averted his gaze, his silence a burden heavier than any spoken criticism. Franklin's grip on his cane tightened, a detail lost amidst the throng, while the audience's anger intensified, their feelings sympathetic to Harper, fueled by this group's harsh criticism. Celia's disapproval became more pronounced, her words a deliberate attempt to humiliate Harper before the distinguished attendees. "She's not simply misplaced. She's a source of shame," she stated, her $12,000 Dior gown gleaming as she indicated Harper's linen dress. "Grandpa must be deeply embarrassed to see this outsider in his manner." A wave of laughter burst from her group, their pearls chiming, their gazes shifting to Harper's cotton ribbon. "She's a beggar, not a Bloom," Celia remarked, her voice strong enough to quiet the four. The attendees applauded, their disdain a heavy pressure, their murmurs circulating. "She doesn't belong." Harper's hazel eyes glowed with restrained intensity, yet her smile remained, a defense against the hurt. Franklin's jaw clenched, his silence growing intense, but the audience's anger surged, their hearts aching for Harper, furious at this adopted daughter's betrayal revealed in the room. Celia's supporters attacked with increased force, their scorn a public condemnation. Ethan Reed, Harper's former boyfriend, now Celia's partner, moved forward wearing a $5,000 Armani suit, his smile appearing insincere. "You still look cute, Harper." "Like a little sister," he said, his voice laced with false kindness. "Why does it seem like you consistently hurt Celia? You understand she makes a significant effort to show you affection." A collective intake of breath rippled through the audience, attendees quietly discussing, "She appears to be envious." Celia wiped away contrived tears, saying, "I simply desire for us to have a sisterly bond." The room's amusement overshadowed Harper's quietness, their remarks feeling like an overwhelming force. Harper offered a gentle smile, her hazel eyes calm, but internally she felt broken, the disloyalty a pain only Franklin's affection could ease. The audience's anger surged, a powerful wave seeking truth to dispel the manufactured falsehood. The elite's disdain became palpable, their words a sharp and bitter chorus. Vanessa Klein, a fashion mogul wearing a $20,000 Valentino gown, moved forward from a velvet chair, her voice cutting through the ballroom. "She's an insult to the Bloom legacy," she stated, indicating Harper's linen dress. "Franklin must be ashamed to see this imposter present." Her companions acknowledged this, one stating, "No wonder she's alone, her own family disowns her." A tech billionaire exclaimed, "She's a fraud, probably forged her invitation." The laughter intensified, each falsehood feeling like a painful blow aimed at Harper's heart. Harper's fingers touched her cotton ribbon, her eyes focused on Franklin, but the crowd's disapproval felt like an immense burden. The audience's outrage surged, their emotions fueled by Harper's fury at this global elite's harshness. The staff's involvement worsened the situation, their actions a new disappointment. A butler, dressed in a neat uniform, stopped close to Harper, his voice quiet but clear, saying, "Miss, the service entrance is over there," indicating the kitchen, with a slight smile that was reflected by those nearby. "We typically do not seat guests of your kind in the ballroom," he added, prompting laughter from the privileged group. The onlookers' agreement felt oppressive, their superiority a blatant humiliation. Harper straightened her cotton ribbon, her hazel eyes steady, but Franklin's jaw clenched, a storm gathering in his silence. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts racing at this blatant disrespect, their fury ablaze poised to destroy the manor's integrity. The manor staff's contempt became obvious, their actions a public humiliation arranged for the elite's entertainment. A head steward, his uniform pristine, approached Harper near the ballroom's grand staircase, his voice dripping with condescension. "Miss, this area is for invited guests only," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. He gestured at her ballet flats, noting her attire suggested she was in the wrong section, his smirk mirrored by nearby guests. "We don't typically allow such simplicity at Bloom events," he added, sparking laughter from the senators and moguls. The audience's affirmation felt like an overwhelming force, their pride a stark condemnation. Harper straightened her cotton ribbon, her hazel eyes steady, but Franklin's cane shook, his silence a brewing storm. The spectators' anger intensified, their hearts racing at this perceived injustice, their resentment burning against the manor's dignity. The attendees' harshness reached its height, their whispers a poisonous storm. The daughter of a media tycoon, her $30,000 tiara catching the light, leaned in and whispered, "She's a con artist," likely bribed her way into the manor. Her friends murmured in agreement, one stating her story is false, simply a scheme to take advantage of Franklin. A Wall Street banker exclaimed, "She's an imposter. The Blooms have been deceived." The laughter was loud, each rumor like a weapon against Harper's composure. Franklin's gaze sharpened, his cane shaking, yet Harper remained still, her velvet pouch a steady presence. The audience's anger intensified, their hearts with Harper, yearning for this public shaming to cease, their fury a powerful surge against the elite's falsehoods. The guests' harshness reached its height as they spread hurtful rumors, their voices a sharp and bitter storm resonating through the ballroom. A publishing heiress and a $35,000 tiara leaned forward, her voice prominent and cutting. "She's a fraud, probably manipulated her way into the Blooms," she stated, her companions nodding in agreement, their diamonds sparkling. Her mother's likely a fabrication, simply a tale to deceive Franklin. One person exclaimed, shouting, "She's a con artist. Blue Manor has been tricked." The laughter intensified, each rumor feeling like a blow aimed at Harper's heart. Guests murmured falsehoods, their accusations spreading rapidly. "She's after the inheritance." Harper's fingers gripped the velvet pouch, her gaze fixed on Franklin, but the crowd's slander felt like an overwhelming burden. The crowd's anger was palpable, their emotions aligned with Harper, their outrage a surge against this damaging falsehood, yearning for the truth to expose the elite's deception. A change in atmosphere occurred as the gift presentation commenced, with the attendees assembling close to Franklin's carved mahogany throne. Celia advanced, her $90,000 bracelet sparkling, her expression carefully composed. "For you, Grandpa, a representation of our connection," she declared, her voice strong and distinct. The attendees applauded, their diamonds glittering, senators acknowledging the gesture. Franklin's gaze settled on Harper, his expression tender. She moved forward, her soft pouch appearing small yet significant with sincerity, and presented her jade bracelet. The onlookers exchanged knowing glances, anticipating a setback. Arthur Wren, a longtime companion of Franklin's, examined it, peering over his spectacles. His sudden intake of breath quieted the space. "Franklin, this is the most exceptional some jade I have ever encountered," he declared, his voice shaking. The audience's emotions changed, their displeasure giving way to interest, the display a point of light in a cold atmosphere. Master Li, a feng shui master present among the guests, moved forward, the sound of his silk robes soft. "This piece was blessed by Master Yuan Min in Chiang Rai," he stated, his voice calm. "A monk doesn't consecrate jade in 7 years. Only someone possessing significant karmic affinity could receive such a blessing." The room became still, flutes vibrated, and murmurs passed through the fragrant air. A tech mogul quietly commented, "It's likely a counterfeit." Arthur Wren countered, "Definitely not. This is Miss Jade, a grade so exceptional it's known only to discerning collectors in spiritual circles." Celia's smile faltered, her $90,000 bracelet appearing less vibrant. Harper remained composed, her hazel eyes serene, her gift a quiet revelation. The audience's hearts lifted, the unveiling a brilliant contrast, their pride growing for Harper's unwavering poise. The reality intensified, the crowd's murmurs becoming a wave of uncertainty. Harper was unaware that the bracelet she's purchased from a small antique store had been surreptitiously swapped by an unseen observer. Lucas Caldwell, heir to Caldwell Group, New York's largest private investment firm, had noticed her visit to his family's store. Without her knowledge, he substituted her modest jade with his grandfather's heirloom, which had been blessed by Master Yuan Min during a trip to Asia. He'd maintained this as a secret, awaiting this specific moment. The ballroom doors opened, and Lucas entered, his gray tuxedo sharply tailored, his presence commanding attention. The assembled guests turned, their expressions intense, as he proceeded directly to Harper, taking her hand, his gray eyes fixed on Franklin. "Sir, I'm Lucas, Harper's partner," he stated, his voice calm, "and today I have come to request your blessing, as I wish to marry her." A wave of emotion filled the room, their feelings intensified as Lucas's declaration altered the manor's history. A hush fell, Ethan Reed's wine glass splintering on the marble, Celia's face draining of color. Lucas pressed on, his voice sharp against the stillness. "She doesn't require designer labels. She doesn't require investment accounts. She possesses grace, and that's something no one present can purchase." The diamonds of the attendees appeared to lose their luster, their expressions rigid with surprise. Edward and Lillian Bloom remained still, their quietness implying guilt. Lucas led Harper to Franklin's side, his grip on her hand firm. The audience erupted in cheers, their anger shifting to awe as Harper's truth started to expose the falsehoods that had constrained her. Franklin's expression gentled towards Harper, his cane visibly shaking with restrained pride, as the room waited in anticipation of his statement. Lucas Caldwell's presence dominated the ballroom, his voice like a gavel silencing the fragrant atmosphere. "You dared to ridicule Harper Bloom, the sole individual deserving of this legacy," he declared, his gray eyes a tempest of contained anger. "Your resources, your positions, hold no weight against her honesty." He presented a leather folio, showing a series of broken connections. Vanessa Klein's fashion agreements, Ethan Reed's finance collaborations, Celia's charity board positions, all ended due to Caldwell Group's power. "Your reputations are removed from New York's highest circles," he stated, his eyes fixed on Celia. "You have forfeited more than prestige. You have lost your prospects." The audience's intakes of breath formed a chorus of disbelief, their organizations collapsing under his authority. Harper stood beside him, her linen dress radiant, her victory confirmed by Lucas's immense power. The audience erupted, their spirits lifted as his worldwide justice dismantled the elite's pride. Franklin rose, his cane striking the marble, the sound like a gavel falling. "Enough," he declared, his voice silencing the ballroom. "Harper is my only biological grandchild. Celia is the adopted one, and I regret ever allowing this deception to continue." Celia let out a scream, a harsh, desperate sound. Her Dior gown offered no protection from the reality of the situation. Edward and Lillian lowered their heads, their faces etched with shame. Franklin's gray eyes scanned the assembled guests. Celia had undermined this family regarding Harper, fabricated stories, used people to her advantage, and seized her rightful position. However, Harper had never retaliated. She had sought me out, motivated by love, not avarice. The guests reacted with audible shock, Vanessa Klein's gown seeming to droop, and Margaret Voss's tiara becoming slightly dislodged. The audience reacted strongly, their anger palpable as Franklin's announcement dismantled the elite's confidence. The consequences were swift, a judgment communicated without words. Celia retreated, her $90,000 bracelet drawing scorn from the crowd's murmurs, labeled as a thief in Dior. Edward and Lillian faced ostracism, their Bloomboard seats taken away, their social standing vanished. Ethan Reed was guided out, his Armani suit offering no protection, his financial agreements terminated. Vanessa Klein's fashion brand endured sanctions, her reputation severely damaged. The butler who had previously shown disdain was terminated, ending his career. The socialites who had participated in the disruptive behavior concealed their expressions, their power diminished. Harper remained steadfast alongside Lucas, her ballet flats grounded, her linen dress conveying a sense of understated elegance. The audience's anticipation escalated, their frustration evolving into elation, Harper's success demonstrating her poise. The downfall of the elite unfolded as a striking event, their pride broken under Lucas and Franklin's direction. Celia retreated, her Dior gown appearing inappropriate, her reputation becoming a warning for the attendees. Ethan Reed's financial empire collapsed, his disdain a visible humiliation, his companions guiding him out. Vanessa Klein's fashion brand encountered boycotts, her name a mark of social disapproval. The publishing heiress concealed her tiara, her false statements revealed as deceptions. Those who had shown disdain were let go, their careers abruptly concluded. Individuals who had discarded napkins were ostracized, their power diminished. Harper remained composed, her cotton ribbon a subtle adornment, her hazel eyes resolute. The audience's emotions surged, their resentment shifting to admiration. Harper's triumph and Lucas's fury, a spectacle that subdued the world's wealthiest within the manor's esteemed rooms. Harper's history remained a mystery, unknown to the attendees, not Celia, nor the elite. At 16, she independently studied biology, using her diner earnings to purchase textbooks. At 18, a DNA test dramatically altered her life, yet she focused on the possibility of finding family, rather than seeking financial gain. Deceptions from Celia, including tainted drinks and fabricated tales of stolen luxury goods, had caused her immense pain. However, Harper remained because of Franklin. Her affection for him served as a beacon during difficult times. Lucas observed her quietly, his own heart influenced by her strength, his inherited jade representing a pledge to safeguard her. Now, she stood in Bloom Manor, her cotton ribbon signifying her honesty, her silence a powerful force that exposed their deceptions. The celebration continued, the quartet resuming, but the guests' eyes remained fixed on Harper. A senator approached, his voice hushed with respect. "Miss Bloom, your presence is remarkable," he said, his earlier disdain now a regret. The media leaders stepped back, their sway diminished, their assistants working to preserve connections with the Blooms. The chief executives remained close, their organizations wavering under Harper's control. Harper moved towards the ballroom's terrace, her hazel eyes following Franklin's confident smile. She hesitated, her fingers lightly touching the cotton ribbon, her look unwavering as the affection she'd held. The crowd's admiration grew, their pulses quickening as Harper's subtle strength redefined the manor's history. A flurry of urgent requests filled the air, voices lowered in hushed tones. "Secure a meeting with Miss Bloom," one powerful individual exclaimed, his voice strained. "She's the inheritor now," someone murmured, her Chanel gown unable to mask the reality. The host remained nearby, his influence diminished, his prospects now dependent on Harper's decisions. Harper appeared on the terrace, accompanied by Lucas, with Franklin's arm around her. The assembled guests lowered their heads, the previous disdain now a distant memory. The autumn breeze propelled her as she exited the ballroom, leaving behind a procession of the world's wealthiest individuals vying for her attention, their bows signifying an unspoken acceptance of the woman they had previously scorned. She felt deeply humiliated, within her own home, by those adorned with borrowed diamonds and insincere smiles. However, when the truth emerged, an unstoppable force, they all realized one crucial point: the genuine heir requires no glitter. Simply entering a room is enough to command its reverence. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what would you do if you were Harper?